There we go.
Okay, I
Okay.
turned
Oh,
it up a little bit. Yep. All right, cool. I can hear you.
cool, bro. Cool, bro. Okay. So, for everybody who's sitting here watching, this is Michael Chavez. I'm not sure how am I supposed to pronounce it.
Chavez, you got it. Yeah.
Chavez from Hemotoxin. Their album, your album. I think you were saying on the thing that it was just like you doing it, everything basically.
Yeah. So it was I'd call it a collaborative effort. So yeah, When Time Becomes Lost is our latest album. It was basically a solo effort, is how it started. Right here in this chair I'm actually sitting in. I started writing songs of my own. I was kind of it was during the pandemic, like post pandemic, like
Yeah.
2021. And I just started writing songs, and in that time I joined with Rip to Shreds, and so I kind of put that on the back burner. But Andrew was like, "Yo, man, like, what's up with Hemotoxin?" So he kind of encouraged me to keep writing a little more, and I actually used him as sort of like a filter, so to speak.
Oh yeah.
So
Nice.
it started as like a solo thing. It became a collaborative effort with Andrew, and then once everything was ready to go, that's when I connected with Scott and had him record the drums. So yeah, it started as like a solo effort, and it mostly is like all the music on it, all the guitars, the bass, the solos, the drums, as far as like the parts go, like written out by me. So it is
Damn,
a
bro.
solo album with some help from a lot of my talented friends. So
Wow. Okay.
that's how that went
Well,
down.
that answers like a couple of my questions here. But yeah, so this is Michael from Hemotoxin. Their album When Time Becomes Lost. It was one of my legitimate like favorite albums of 2024. Dude, you won't even believe how I heard of your album. It was like first of all,
Let
one
me hear
second
it.
before I get into that, your long sleeve, symbolic long sleeve. That's absolutely sick, bro. Love it.
Yeah, I had to
Same.
break it out for you. It's I think it's a bootleg because they don't. There's like the tour design.
Yeah, yeah.
It's from like Outer Limits or Outer Garments on Instagram. That guy made it, so I had to break it out to show that off for you and all your viewers.
Hey, we love it. Yeah, dude, we love symbolic. Yeah, nothing wrong with bootlegs,
Oh,
bro.
yeah.
Especially band. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
That's a different conversation. But so on this website called 4chan, there's like a music board, and on that music board, there's like a metal thread that like comes up every day, and I just kind of
Oh,
browse it when I'm waiting. And some guy
yeah.
posted When Time Becomes Lost, and he's like, "We love death worship in this thread." And normally like the stuff that's posted there is all just like black metal and stuff like that. But that piqued my interest, and immediately as soon as I heard it,
Wow.
as soon as I heard like the first notes of the first song, I was like, "Whoa!" Like the production just immediately stood out to me. And like I love the old school production of that album. Like it was you guys, or you, I guess, and Blood Incantation last year. Both those albums sounded really like old school sounding, and I just love that sound because so much of the stuff now, and I don't mean to like poo poo on stuff, but it's like just so loud and so dense. It's just too much. Now, like
Mm.
before we get into it here, I just have to ask. I was listening to when I was walking my dog this morning. It doesn't sound like any of your guitars are double tracked. Am I wrong with that? It sounds like just one guitar in the left and one guitar in the right
Um,
there.
no. You mean like on each side?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I just did strict right and left. I did quad tracking before, actually, on biological enslavement. We did that, and I'm just not a fan of it. I like just having like two guitars, pan hard right, hard left, and just like because a lot of my riffs, like especially on this last album, I didn't do too many like harmonies, like as far as like on the actual riffing goes.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to have like a solid like stereo sound. It just like was a 1-to-1 on each side, and just kind of keep things as clean as possible.
Yeah, and I love that sound, man. I think it just, again, like it's a nice old school sounding thing. You can hear what both guitars are doing. When you double track, like say if you had two guitars in the left, two guitars in the right, it does
Sure.
sound like bigger, but I think you lose some of the clarity and precision, I guess. And a lot of your riffs,
Yeah.
especially on like Call of the Abyss and stuff like that, like that's just like
Uh,
super technical riffing, bro. So yeah, dude, it's sick.
Lots of picking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're doing big open chord stuff and you got parts like that, quad tracking is the way to go. I mean, some people still do the, right, left, and down the middle. So it's all depending on like what the situation calls for. But for hemotoxin, because there's a lot of intricate picking going on, I just prefer that sound of just like one guitar for each side and just like kind of keeping it very strict. We did layer the sound of like
Yeah.
the amps. I think from what I remember is like a 6505 and a triaxis kind of blended together in there. So different sounds going on for sure, but still just strict right and left. So you just keep things very uniform.
Nice, nice. Yeah, dude. Yeah, like I said, like I immediately like yeah, the first thing it just the straight up sound of the album just caught me, and I really liked it. I just want to tell like everyone really quick, like we kind of connected here in such a weird way. Like it was what was it, like a
Yeah.
Warbringer like live stream or something like that? Some guy was like
It,
streaming a
it
Warbringer
was
set.
Vulgar Display of Gaming. Yeah, they're an awesome YouTube channel actually. They do a lot of live streams for like shows in Southern California. And yeah, I happened to see you chatting in the Warbringer one, and I was like, dude, you talked about my band. What's up? Yeah, totally. Like, and Shane at Vulgar Display of Gaming, that guy is sick. He's actually gonna, or we're trying to figure out how we can get him to come live stream the first night of the Rip to Shreds tour we'll be doing in May down there, May 2nd at the Moroccan Lounge in LA. So
Oh,
I
dude,
was kind of in there to
sick.
get that going, and then
Yeah.
I saw you, and I was like, let me get two birds with one stone here and
Hey,
connect
well,
with
it
you.
worked
So it
for
was
me.
awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome, and
Yeah.
like yeah, kind of like weird, like crossing a pass here. Like I'm like, you know, obviously like I'm just up in Canada. It was like snowing
Yeah.
today. I'm sure. I think I said you're from Pittsburgh, California, which I'm not sure if that's North or Southern California. Like I have
Yeah.
no idea.
Right. Pittsburgh is a small town in Northern California. There's some, local legends and stuff, but most part, like yeah, it's in the Bay Area though, like
Yeah,
Northern California. So today it's kind of cloudy, but nowhere near as cold as Canada. So yeah,
yeah. I like I was
not
saying.
snowing. We don't really, yeah, get that. The climate doesn't,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
it was like
support
7 degrees Fahrenheit today, and like we had like a foot and a half
Oh
of
my
snow, bro.
god,
Oh my
dude!
god, it
I
was like
would
fifth winter, bro. Brutal.
just experiencing like 20-degree weather like makes my bones crack, dude. Yeah, kudos to you for yeah. I mean, you're used to what you're used to, but man, yeah, and I'm used to a dry,
Yeah.
hot climate. So when I go to anything below 40 degrees, like, dude, yeah, I'm breaking down.
So yeah, it's so funny. I think just like how I'm thinking like before the internet, I would never even heard of your band. Like the guy in 4chan, never would have saw his post, never would have made that video
It
about that when time becomes lost, the under solo riff there. You never would have saw that,
totally.
and you never would have saw me in like the chat. So it's just like what a crazy crossing of
Yeah, it's
paths, man.
amazing the way internet connects everybody. But yeah, it's like it would just be like the same thing if like we were at a show and I'm like, yo, that's the dude that talked about my. I'd be like, yo, dude, what's up? Like, kind of thing. So to me, like, especially like when it comes to like metal and like especially with something like Vulgar Display of Gaming does, where they're just streaming a whole show, it's kind of like simulating that, but you're like, you're in your own room and stuff, and obviously you're not feeling the atmosphere of the venue or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
but it's sort of a similar dynamic. So I was like, you know what, like, let's make this happen. So I'm glad we did.
Yeah, so true, bro. Yeah, and I was like sitting there watching the live stream, like, oh, dude, this is sick. I get like the local band or like the local show
Yep.
vibes, but I'm not standing there. My back's not hurting. I don't want to go. You
Yeah, totally. And
know?
that's what I was actually talking to Shane on the phone last week, and that's what we were kind of saying is like, some bands are like, don't live stream the show because then nobody will want to come. But that the real like point behind it is that you're trying to reach a global audience, like people that can't literally physically can't be there, like you're in
Yeah,
Canada and you got to enjoy a show all the way, down in Southern California, and like California is a gigantic state. So for me, like Southern California is a 500-mile drive. That's like all day long. So, some people are like, if a show's happening in LA and you're in the Bay Area, why can't you go? It's like, because dude, it's going to take me like 7 hours to get down there. So it's a service that you're doing for people like all over the world. Well, not a service, but you're providing something for people all over the world, and giving people a place to kind of chat and hang out and stuff. And I mean, like, it's metal, so you get everything. You get the crazies, you get cool people like yourself that are known and are making awesome content, and I might even pop in there, someone who's in a
yeah,
band.
true.
So it's just awesome to have those kind of opportunities and give people that kind of experience. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I support it all the way.
Yeah, it was sick, and like I wasn't even subscribed to a Vulgar Display of Gaming either. Like it just sort of like showed up randomly in my feed. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like Warbringer,
Yeah,
like
I've heard
I
of
heard of
them.
those guys. Like sick, I'll come and watch. So yeah, it was cool. And like, yeah, like you're
Sweet.
dude, you're like totally right. Yeah, it's just connects people all over, and I don't really think
Yeah,
anybody would be like, let's say if I was seeing a band in like a week and I saw a live stream of their set, I would still watch the set and still go see them. You know what I mean? Like it's two different experiences,
yeah.
but it's kind of same but different. You know?
Totally. I mean, like, there's the fan that's like already sold on it, so they're going to be like, "I'm going anyway." But if you're not totally sure, it gives you the chance of preview and be like, "I got to go see that in real life." Like, that's amazing. You know, if it tells you that if you're sold that well on it. So yeah,
Absolutely.
no, totally. And especially for I also play in Rip to Shreds, and there'll be the first night of the tour will be when hopefully we can get Vulgar Display Gaming to come down and stream. But yeah, you know, that's a good way for us to be like, hey, like, we're on tour now, come out to a show, kind of thing. So yeah, it definitely it's a great thing. So I want to support him as much as I can and try to help with that wherever I can. And if live streaming a show is what we can do for them, then hell yeah.
Absolutely,
Hell yeah.
bro. And like Volga, he gave me like definitely some good ideas too. Like I play in a band, like nothing like close to like Hemotoxin or Rip to Shreds, like just like local Canada band. But it's like, what if I just like live stream our set? You know what I mean? It's sort of, yeah. So I thought it was just really
Dude,
really cool. Yeah, it would be sick.
exactly.
But anyways, okay, I don't want to take up all your time. I got a whole bunch of questions for you here, so let's get into it.
You're all good. I got all day, man. Yeah, we're set.
Sick, sick. Okay, so yeah, basically, I think you already said this, but my first question was like, introduce yourself, your bands, your playing, how old you are, wherever you're from. Like, yeah, just
Yeah.
introduce yourself to anybody who just joined here.
So yeah, I'm Michael Chavez, 30-year-old guitar player from Pittsburgh, California. Yeah, I play in Hemotoxin. It's been my band since I was 16 years old. And I also play in Rip to Shreds. I play the second guitar and do the backup vocals for Andrew. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I've just been playing for like half my life, and I've been playing in all types of bands. I played for Cartilage, which is another local death metal band out of the Bay Area. I played with Condition Critical from New Jersey for a time. I was with the hardcore band Doomsday that just released an album today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's just I've been trying to shred. That's all, man. Like trying to release these Hemotoxin albums, do what we can, and try to get out there and hit the road and tour as much as I can. Yeah, so that's who I am. That's what I do. That's where I'm from, Bay Area.
Nice, nice, nice. Okay, just real quick, is my voice any better? I know some people in the chat were saying my voice is a little quiet, and I think you were saying it was a little quiet too. But is it sounding any better?
I got my volume cranked, so you sound good on my end, but you may be a little quiet.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Just give me 1 second here. We'll just do this. I could probably take off the noise gate too. Let's probably don't need that anymore. All right, okay. I see. You played in a lot of bands then. So you like so okay. So let's say what's like your home genre music, as you said, like Rip to Shreds, Hemotoxin,
Yeah.
hardcore band. Like what do you kind of enjoy playing the most? I guess you would say.
So yeah. So I grew up a thrash kid. When I was growing up, initially, like as a kid, I never knew anything about metal until I was like around like 10, 11 years old. My friend was into Disturbed. That led to Seven Dust. And then his dad was like, yo, you ever heard of Slayer? And I was like, no, let me go home and look that up. And this is 2007, like when YouTube's still kind of like brand new.
So wait,
So I just looked up Slayer, and I think it was,
yeah.
what was that?
Oh, I was just say. So you must be what, like 30 years old then?
I'm 30. I'm
Oh,
30,
dude,
yeah.
I'm 32. Yeah, or
So
30
I'm an
as
old
well.
man now.
Both old.
But yeah. But yeah. So I looked up Slayer, and I think the first song I heard was War Ensemble, and it was over after that. My dad took it. Actually, my friend's dad and my dad took us both to see Slayer in 2007. I'll never forget it. It was Bleeding Through opened, Slayer was second, and then Marilyn Manson headlined.
Oh my god.
But
Oh wow.
Slayer, yeah, crazy, right? Slayer played for like 45 minutes, and it changed my literally the whole experience of just seeing the metal scene and everything. It just really swallowed me whole. It was just like it was just exactly what I needed in life. So yeah, I just got into Slayer and just immediately became a thrash kid. Anything that was remotely like Slayer or sounded like Slayer, like I wanted to just listen to it, whatever it was. So that led into the Dark Angels
Yeah.
and Hyrax and fucking like Creator, Exhumer, all these thrash bands. I just got all into that. So like throughout like my middle school and like high school years, I was like wearing the I literally had white high tops in high school. Like I found the like old school Reeboks and like bought them at the mall, and like I'd wear tight pants and like everything because I was just so in love with the genre. And like that eventually kind of led me into like more death metal, black metal kind of stuff. But yeah, I was a thrash kid growing up, so that's kind of like what I identify myself with the most. You know, I was when I saw Slayer the first time, I saw that circle pit, like I just wanted to be in that so bad. And then the year after I saw Slayer, I went to a more underground festival called Tidal Wave.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
was the first time I got to mosh, and I was like 14 years old, and they just killed me in there. I saw it was Havoc played that day before they even had like an album out. They played a cover of Raining Blood, and it just like that was my opportunity. And so like yeah, it was always a thrash scene that kind of like it I don't know, it appealed to me so much. I can't even like I've been so into it for so long. I can't even think back now to like what is it that like sold me on thrash so hard. But yeah, it's just the dynamics of the music and just the fucking unrelenting like attitude of it and stuff. And just the fact that you see like guys like Sean Killian and all these older dudes that are just like still doing it, and they just still like
Yeah, bro.
don't give a fuck as much as they did in their 20s as they do now in like their 50s and 60s. Like there's something just kind of badass about it. Sort of like the same way people feel about Lemmy, you just stay the same way for years. So I think that's a part of it too, just the consistency of like all those old thrash guys and stuff. But yeah, eventually after that, I got into Cannibal Corpse and Tomb, all the classic stuff. And
Yeah, all the death metal and everything.
yeah, so yeah, death metal, black metal, and then eventually I had a friend that got me into like hardcore punk and all that type of stuff. So all of it, I love it. Like, when I was growing up, the only thing I didn't like was like the deathcore, metalcore stuff, because there was such a divide back then, especially with the thrash kids. Like, I don't know how it was in Canada, but here in the Bay Area, there was definitely a little rivalry between like the deathcore kids and the thrash kids, or even the brutal death metal kids too, but not so much because brutal death metal and deathcore, like this. So it was, yeah. Growing up, I was like, oh, Whitechapel, oh, this band, that band, But like,
yeah.
As I got older, I learned to appreciate them, and even like it's funny because like I had like dudes from bands like Job for a Cowboy. Like when I was like in middle school, like I would have told you that band sucked, and then I hear from them like this year, like they reached out on one of our, they commented on one of our posts, like, dude, your album was great, sick shit. Like, whoa, like there's no way I could have like pictured that as a kid. So yeah, that's kind of like where I gravitated to was the thrash stuff. And,
interesting.
yeah, as I got older, I opened up a little.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, like you say, like you talk about all the rivalries and stuff, and in Canada it wasn't really like that. It was sort of like we were just thankful to get any bands playing up here, honestly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, totally. And we're in the Bay Area, everybody knows somebody that was has an uncle that was friends with Paul Bailoff back in the 80s or like whatever. It has some crazy ass stories. So I think we're kind of spoiled out here too in that way. We're so close to it, I think, and especially like all the metal stuff, and we have tons of shows and stuff. I think kids were, had an extra chip on their shoulder back then for no reason, just to sort of, especially now you see it at shows when kids go there and like want to mosh. They just want to prove something, and I get it now. I've been in it so long, I understand it a little too well.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. But like, that divide was definitely on the internet. Like you kind of got it on the internet, I guess, like indirectly,
sure.
Right? You'd hear people call it metalcore and like deathcore, like gay and stuff like that. So I thought that was always just like so funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, it always is like if it was like guitars and it was just like heavy, distorted, and people were yelling. I just like everything, right? But yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny too, cause I say that like I was a thrash kid, but like I had exceptions. Like I loved Waking the Cadaver in 2008, like that original like 2008 MySpace demo, like whatever. Like
that was sick.
Yeah, I actually had one of their shirts. There's a picture of me like 14 years old wearing a Waking the Cadaver shirt, and like I used to get so much like hate from my friends. Be like, "Oh, you listen to that False Grind band?" Like
False Grind.
Yeah, I love them. I love Blood Splatter Satisfaction. It's one of the sickest songs ever written.
Yeah, it just makes you laugh, bro. Like what, And now when you're like,
because
sort of the same. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I did it too. Like I said, I was a thrash kid, but then I'd listen to certain bands, and it reflects back because like even here, like I've gone to a couple, like Gary Holt used to do guitar clinics for a while, and he would talk about how like we didn't like the glam stuff, but we would when no one was looking, we would listen to Cinderella. It's like history just repeats.
It's so true, bro. So true. So true. Okay, yeah, that's very cool, man. Yeah, so like just you've been playing guitar your whole life. Okay, so yeah, let's get back to Hemotoxin here. So with time, when time comes loss. By the way, how's it sounding? I've been kind of messing with the mic while you were speaking there. Is it sounding better?
Okay. No, you sound good.
Sounding
Yeah.
good? Okay, yeah, just because I have it set up like it's
Oh,
going
yeah.
through my DAW where I was playing guitar before. But yeah, anyways. Okay, what was your vision
Gotcha.
behind when time becomes lost? Like, what point were you trying to get across? What were you trying to say with the album?
So the title itself was reflective of sort of how I felt back in 2021. Basically, the band fell apart. The lineup we had on the last album, Restructure the Molded Mind, was myself, Brandon Wilcox on drums, and Shane Hunt Duce. I think I'm saying that right, but Shane on bass. And they basically, for their own reasons, had to depart from the band.
Yeah.
And I basically felt like Hemotoxin was kind of over. Um, so it kind of had me, because I've been through this with Hemotoxin a couple times where like basically the whole lineup leaves and it's just me, or like we've had it before where like, you know, two of the guys leave and it's just me and Brandon, because Brandon was our old drummer, and I've been playing music with him since I was 14 years old. We started in our first band together back in high school, so he was always kind of my musical partner. So once he kind of left the band, or not necessarily left, but just kind of let me know he couldn't do it anymore, and we kind of mutually parted ways. It was just kind of like damn, like I did this for so many years of my life, and what does it like really amounted to? And like, you know, like just thinking about that so much, because you know I've been pushing Hemotoxin since I was 16 years old, like,
Oh, damn! It
you know,
goes
as
that
much
far
as I
back.
can. Yeah.
Almost 15
In
years.
between real life, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
been trying to just do what I can with this band, whether it's playing whatever festivals have been available to us, local shows, or wherever, you know, we can travel to. Like, I've just been trying to make it happen as best I can, and things come up and guys can't, you know, dedicate the time to do it, and I understand it. I don't hold it against them, and that's why I've gone through so many members.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
go look at our Metal Archives page, you can see all the lists of past members, and yeah, you know, I've just had kind of shitty ass luck with getting members that can go on tour and do that kind of thing. And so once I was kind of left with it all to myself, I was just kind of like, you know, my time has really become lost with this project. And, you know, like, I think I'm kind of just at that point. This is before I joined Rip to Shreds too. This is like the summer of
Okay, so yeah, so
2021. And
Hemotoxin was
like,
like your only kind of musical outlet, I guess you would say, at that point, right?
for the most
Yeah.
part, in between that time, I was in Cartilage for a time when I was at Hemotoxin, and that when I joined Cartilage is when I first got to actually go on tour and do real stuff. You know, that was reflective of what I wasn't able to do with Hemotoxin. Why I was in that band in the first place. So yeah, you know, I was trying to do things in between, you know, doing Hemotoxin too. But yeah, at that point, I was just like, my time has become lost
Time
with
becomes
this, and
lost.
it
Yeah, dude.
just
Yeah.
yeah, and like it just sort of, because I was writing like what I do, like when I write down like song lyrics or song titles or whatever, I just write down like a sheet, and I just all over the place. I don't even sometimes I won't even look at the page. Sometimes I'll just jot down stuff, and one of the lines I wrote down is when time becomes lost, and it just really, yeah, it really hit me, because I was just like, that's how I feel about music at this point. At that point in the summer of 2021, because you know I got to accomplish a few things. Hemotoxin at that point released 3 albums. I toured with Cartilage. I just felt so dissatisfied at that point. So I had written that line down, and I had actually written "When Time Becomes Lost." It was the second song I wrote for this project. And yeah, it just really reflected how I felt at that point when I started writing the album, and I stuck with it because, you know, as time has gone on since then, things have kind of taken a turn now. Like in the August of 2021 was when I got contacted by Andrew Lee from Rip to Shreds. He initially wanted me to fill in for the Decibel Magazine Metal and Beer Fest that was happening in LA that year,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
I was like, yeah, sure, I'll fill in. I got a headless 7-string right here. You know, I can do the job. um, but yeah, it started with that, and me and Andrew had actually been friends for a couple years prior to that, so we were already familiar with each other. And so once I had done the one gig, it kind of just fit like a glove, and I eventually joined as a full-time member. And so once the ball got rolling with Rip to Shreds, that's when Andrew kind of got in my ear. I was like, yo, like, what's up with Hemotoxin? And that's when I kind of explained that my feelings behind it. I didn't necessarily have When Time Becomes Lost picked as like a title just yet,
Yeah.
but like I still had those feelings. So yeah, it was just through him, and then when Rip to Shreds would go out and do like little runs or tours and stuff, I would literally get people coming up to me being like, "Hey, were you in a band called Hemotoxin at one point?" It was like, That's my band, yeah." And he's like, "Dude, whatever happened to that?" And I just got enough of that, and people just contacting me, online or any show, any local show I would go to, especially in those years, 2021, 22. People were always coming up to me asking me what Hemotoxin was doing because we hadn't done anything for a couple years up to that point. So it was just through all that I was like, all right, I guess I have to do this, right? And so, yeah, by that point, I think I had like 7 or 8 songs written. I have like a whole list, I think, of like 15 or 16 like demo tracks that I wrote out for When Time Becomes Lost. And I only picked like 7 of them that were like actually like, a full set album. But yeah, just in those years between 21 and 2024, we recorded it in 2023. So it was really 2021, 2023. But yeah, I just slowly started to put together a new album, and I had all my, basically like I have my own recording setup here in my room. I basically have Easy Drummer or a Superior Drummer, and then a bunch of like, sample packs and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was just putting together songs at that point, and just seeing what I could come up with. And like I was doing all types of different stuff. Like there's a bunch of songs I wrote that like were not Hemotoxin style, but I was just trying to do different things. So yeah, I just wrote a bunch of demos out, and then I'd put them on my phone. And at that point, I was unemployed too, so I had all the time in the world to do it.
Oh yeah.
We were still under COVID lockdown. Yeah, and so like I would go on these like 6-hour bike rides. Like I'd be out all day long. I'd go out at like 11 in the morning. I'd ride like 15 miles to like a couple towns over and go like have lunch or something, and then ride all the way back, and it'd take me all day. And in that time, like I'd be listening to the songs, and then do that, for like a week, and then I've just stopped listening to all that stuff for like almost a month. Like there were a couple periods where like I didn't listen to any of the songs I wrote for a whole month to sometimes 2 months, and then I would come back to it with fresh ears and just kind of refine it, and just keep refining it, and just repeating that process until I felt like I had a full album. And yeah, there was supposed to be an 8th track on When Time Becomes Lost, but it was actually at the advice of Andrew to not put it on. He just didn't think it like was as strong as the other tracks, and
Yeah.
listening to it enough, and then coming back to it, leaving it alone and coming back, I was like, yeah, he's kind of right. So I think we'll do something with that later. But yeah, I eventually was able to get it down to the 7 tracks that you heard. And in that order too, like I literally had it in my phone saved like in a playlist like of the demo tracks, like as you see it on the album. So yeah, it was just that process of just making songs, leaving them alone, and then listening to them like in different situations, like out on my bike or driving my car or whatever it was, doing anything. Yeah, so that was basically the process of it.
Dude, sick. Yeah, there's something said about like obsessively listening to your own music over and over again, and like, okay, I could make this part a little bit better, or change this. So yeah, it's really cool that like to hear that like people go through similar things, I guess, right? Now, Hemotoxin, the When Time Becomes Lost, it's really like you saying, like you said in the chat earlier, and like you said earlier in the interview, that you had like 15 songs, but you chopped it down to 7, under 30 minutes. A nice, really succinct, brisk album that's like very enjoyable to listen to. Like I think when lots of times when albums, like don't get me wrong, like I love like Symbolic, The Sound of Perseverance. Those are all like long albums, right? But there's something to be said about under 30 minutes. Here's all the stuff I have. It's all lean, no fat. Here it is. Enjoy it. You know what I mean? So I just gotta say, I love it. I love how short it was. I love how succinct and concise it was. Yeah, dude, it was just fantastic, man. I loved it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that was by design. I saw a lot of comments that were like, oh, it's too short. Oh, I wish they would do more. But my whole idea is like, if we're going to do this, like, and especially like when we got towards the end of recording, When Time Becomes Lost is when like, people started to reach out about us playing shows and stuff, and I got a live band together. I really wanted to have an album that we could play live and do it in under an hour,
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the idea too with making it 29 minutes was like, I don't want this to be any longer than it needs to be. And I feel like when an album goes over 30 minutes, especially now, if you're a prog band, it's kind of different, I guess, if you have like ambient parts. But yeah, if you're like a thrash band and your music is paced very fast, like I really feel like Slayer kind of set the standard with Rain and Blood. Just you
Yes.
got to make
Yes.
it. You got to make it under 30 minutes. It's kind of you almost got to treat it like you're like a live set. Like when you're a band opening, don't play more than 30 minutes. Get your 25 to 30 in and impress the people and leave them wanting more. And thankfully, in our case, we do have more because we have more albums that people can go listen to. I'm pretty sure Biological Enslavement's like almost 40 minutes, so you can get your fix there for a longer paced album. But yeah, I generally, especially moving forward, if I do more music with Hemotoxin, I want albums that I could just play in a set and not have to be like, oh well, I can't do that song because it's got this and that in it, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Like I want what you hear on the record to be exactly what you're going to hear when you come to see us live, if not better. Because some stuff I still improv. Like even if you go look, I've been uploading like playthrough videos on the Hemotoxin channel, and I some of those solos I've been just straight up like improving certain parts just because that's how I rolled, man. Like that's it. I in high school I was in jazz band and I did a lot of years of practicing improvisation for
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and it just became a part of my style so much that like when I started to record solos for Hemotoxin, like I'd have like A, B, and then like C and D, and the rest of it would be kind of filled in all the way to X, Y, and Z, kind of thing for my solos. So it's just become a part of my style, but I just have too much fun with it. I love improvising on guitar, like especially like over backing tracks or just over anything, really. I love improvising on guitar and just like doing crazy shit, especially on Malediction, like that song. Like
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll throw shit in, yeah, and the title track When Time Becomes Lost, especially if you watch the last video that we played it live, like I'm just throwing in like harmonics that weren't there on the original track and just going all over the place because it's all in E, right? That When
Yes.
Time Becomes Lost song. So I literally have access to all the natural harmonics on the guitar. I can hit most of the open strings and it's gonna sound great. So I fuck with that so much.
Oh,
It's
nice. I'll have to go check
yeah,
that out. I haven't
it's
watched
one
it.
of the things that keeps it exciting for me for sure.
Nice, bro. Nice. Okay. All right. So yeah, next question here is this album has a decidedly old school feel and sound to it, which really sucked me in when I first heard it. That sort of sounded. How was it recorded? Like, what gear were you using? How did you achieve like this old but still clear sound? Right. A lot of the older albums, kind of get a little muddy, lack a little clarity, but yours is very, very clear yet old school sounding. I really like it. Yeah. What did you record it with? Like you said, you had a 6505. Was it all sort of like done
Oh
in
yeah,
mixing and
well,
stuff?
so the real amplifiers came in. They were actually reamped. So
Oh yeah.
basically, how we recorded it was like I did all the direct stuff through. I had a Line 6 Pod Go at the time. I don't know if you're familiar with that little unit, but
Nice. Nice.
yeah, I was using that as an interface basically, and then I would just record the DI on that, and it was kind of funny because like basically I wanted to record all the DIs before I sent it to Scott, so like what I sent to Scott or the drummer on the recording was going to be what would be on the album, right? And so we did that, and then I was like, this could be a little better, that could be it. So like I went over my DIs again, but yeah, it was just DIs, and then I would send them to Andrew, and then once we had all the drums ready, he just reamped it with I think he said a tri-axis and a 6505 kind of blended together. I can't remember the cabs or if you use the same cab on that. And then yeah, the bass was all DI. The bass tone was kind of modeled after a dark glass preamp that Nathan, our current bass player, it was all his stuff that he let me use for the recording. So the fretless bass you hear on it is like this Douglas bass. I don't even know the model name. I don't even know if Douglas is like a super common like brand that people
Yeah.
have heard of, but that's what it says on the top of the headstock. It almost looks like a Warwick type of headstock thing at the top. But basically it was just that fretless bass. The way I recorded it, yeah, the same way it was like through the Pod Go with the DIs. But I had for the monitoring, I had a dark glass that also belonged to Nathan, and I kind of dialed it in a certain way. And then I gave those reference tracks to Andrew to kind of be like, yo, model it this way. And then the drums were the only thing that like I didn't really have any kind of. I didn't even see him because like Scott basically he has his own studio up in Oregon where he lives, and he recorded all of it there.
Yeah.
So he just gave me everything edited, ready to go. Like if you listen to the stems, like everything's just gated so crazy. Like he gave. I asked for that too, like just to give me edited drums. I have everything just basically droppable into the DAW, so you could just so I could give it to Andrew, and then he could just get ready to mix it. So yeah, guitars were all DI'd, reamped later. Bass was like its own little thing based off of Dark Glass, and then the drums, I think Scott uses a Pearl, but you would have to go. I think his Instagram is Annihilated Drums. You can check out his specs on there. I know. Basically, he was doing some drum cams a little bit before he was recording with us, and I know that was a kit that he used on the recordings. So,
Oh, interesting. So you
yeah,
recorded
that's
all the
yeah.
stuff like the guitars, bass, vocals, just in your room, direct it, and then sent it to Scott. There is that how you did it?
Well, the vocals came later on. The bass, so the guitars came first. So the guitars were all I sent to Scott, and then once he sent the drums back to me, I went over the guitars again. Then I did bass DIs, and then I actually went to Andrew's house to record. Went to record the vocals. We did vocals and solos down at his the Weeb Dungeon is what it's called. He offers professional mixing service and recording services. By the way, the Weeb Dungeon, check him out. But yeah, the Weeb Dungeons where I went to go record my vocals and solos, and yeah, it is funny because like I did initially kind of plan to like record all my solos like right here, and just DI it, and then Andrew was like, "So when are you gonna come over to record those solos?" I was like, okay, let's do that. And that's what we did for like all the songs except Reborn in Tragedy. I kind of went back home and kind of had to do some surgery on that a little bit. But yeah, all the guitars, rhythm wise, and bass were done DI. And then the solos I recorded with Andrew, and then the vocals recorded at his house as well on the 7B, the classic.
Yeah, yeah. 7B, man, it's just the goat. What can you
Dude,
say? It's the goat.
In all the like yeah, ever since our Alchemist EP from 2014, I've refused to use any other microphone for recordings.
It
It's
just
just
like
yeah,
it's just good, and it like
it's got those
feels.
mids.
It's got the mids, and it just feels nice to like sing into as well. I don't know,
That too. Yeah, yeah, totally.
like yeah, like I've recorded like some vocals for my band Soul Runner before, and like the other guy had it set
Mm.
up like, you got the pop filter and then like two mics or whatever, and it's like okay, whatever, it's cool,
Yeah,
I guess. But yeah, for the other stuff, the newest stuff we did, it's just SM7B in my room, no pop filter. It just works, bro. It just
yeah.
works. I don't. What can you say, man? It just works.
I love the way it sounds, especially like because I do a lot of like long screams and like a lot of like
Yes.
held out stuff like that, and we throw the delay on it and just the way it decays and just the warmth of the sound on the vocal is like I love it. I'll never use another microphone unless somebody like holds a gun to my head. Then I guess I'll have to. But
True.
yeah,
True.
I love the 7B.
So good, bro. So good. Okay, so now when it was getting, so all the stuff's recorded, all the stuff is getting mixed. What did you tell the mixing engineer? I don't know if it was the same guy, but like, did you have like an album
It was
that you wanted to
Andrew.
reference? Did you say I want it to sound like this, or yeah, what'd you tell him? You're like, I want it to sound old school, but still clear. Like, what did you tell him? Or like, was there an album that you
Well,
kind of wanted to match the
so
sound of?
because of yeah, well, so on the old albums we kind of established that like we're doing like sort of the 90s tech death sort of sound. So it's kind of like inherent almost to our sound to sort of go for that like Scott Burns type of mix,
Yeah.
just snappy snare, clicky kick drums. But on this one, I can't remember what albums I referenced for him, but I know a lot of the time, like I'll just tell somebody like, I don't know if you ever listened to the Tetragenesis EP from Revocation, the one
I
that
have,
has
yeah, yeah.
the Grip Titans on it.
Yes, yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
much that. Like I want my album to sound like that. That EP is oh my god. It one of I kind of fell off with Revocation after that, but that EP like influenced the hell out of me. So a lot of times that and Obscura, Cosmogenesis, like just I want that 90s sound a little bit, but I also want it to have a modern punch to it where it's not too I don't even know how to put it, but just a lot of the old school production kind of sounds like it has like a blanket over it. Especially like
Yeah,
you listen
yeah.
to our Biological Enslavement album, like it's pretty bad. Like the amount of blanket that's over it, I can't even like. I put it in the DAW myself and like put just added a bunch of high end to it, and that's put takes the blanket off, so to speak. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I do like that to a point because it pushes the guitars a little bit and it mixes really well with the bass and the vocals too, and kind of keeps everything sort of compact and like everything has its place. But I also do want that like really high, sparkly, highs going on as well as like the low bass, as much as I can without sacrificing the guitars too much, because that tends to happen. Like I had a friend of mine do a remix of Malediction. I'm not sure if we're going to release it ever, but he kind of did that, like where it was like he made it sound a lot more modern, put a little more high end on it and
Yeah.
low end punch, and it just sort of like kills the guitars a little bit, like it sort of drowns them out and like starts to make them sound more fizzy, and it pushes it to the back of the mix, but it also pushes the bass up and then gets those low mids, roaring a little more. So there's give and take to it, but I'm more partial to a balanced mix myself, like as far as like an album goes, because everybody has different speakers and different systems. I know, like in my car, I got the whole little like it's got a 3-band EQ like internally in the car system, so I just crank that up as high as I can. So I want to have it like sort of not like a flat mix, so to speak, but just something that's a nice balance, and supports what's pumping out of the stems and stuff, because also like the tone is the tone, so you have to complement that too. So
yeah, absolutely.
I trust Andrew's ear. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I think you kind of nailed it with the old school, like the production of your album kind of reminds me a lot of like the Atheist and like those early Cynic albums, and like you're totally right, those sound like they have like a blanket on them, but yours like doesn't. It does sound like a little bit airy and stuff like that. So yeah, I just really like the production, man. Yeah, so it's cool. I might have to hit him up too. That's sick.
Sick. Andrew Lee, he's done Andrew a lot. He's like mixed a lot of stuff. If you look up, he's done all the Rip to Shred stuff. Like all of that is him. So yeah, he's got a great ear, and I really trust him as far as like what he thinks is going to sound best. I mean, he'll always ask me what kind of sound I want to go for and what kind of stuff I want to use. But like the one thing I've sort of learned, especially over the years, is like your preference isn't necessarily going to dictate what sounds good or bad. Like if you're like the guy that's like, I have to use this 5150 or this Marshall head, for my recording, like that's not necessarily going to dictate, you sounding good or bad. Like you're sometimes just better off using what the engineer is like already got dialed in and knows is going to sound good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I really kind of, so I really trusted Andrew with a lot of the mixing for it as well, and just let him kind of like set it how he wants to set it, and then if there are little things to be adjusted, then we could. But the good thing is, because I'm also in Rip to Shreds, when I'd go to practice, he could pull it up for me, and I could literally see everything he's doing, and like we could turn stuff up. I would like point like, what's that? Can we turn that up? What does that do? Kind of thing, because you don't usually get that kind of. That's a luxury in my mind, because a lot of guys do mixing. They might be like across the country or something, and you might not be there for all of it. So it was also nice to have that option. But at the end of the day, like I'm not a mixing engineer. I know what I know. I'm better with the live sound than I am with the studio sound, to be totally honest. Like I can dial in an amp pretty well, but like I'm not. I can't mix levels for a microphone to save my life. Like I'm not like that. So I trust the person who has, the history with it. Because that was sort of our mistakes before, too, is we would work with friends or like, dude, I got a studio, you can record here. And then, it would sound like shit. Yeah. That's what happened with Restructure the Molded Mind. So, yeah, that was another thing I made sure to keep in mind, is like, make sure whatever we do next, work with people that are kind of proven. And where Andrew came in, and as well as, I think his name is Justin at Trackworks Studio in South San Francisco. He mastered it, and he did Paul Bear, High on Fire, so many different bands. So yeah, definitely something I made sure to do this time. Nice. Work with professionals.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, like you kind of answered this earlier, but my next question was like, okay, who played the bass? Fretless, love it, love fretless bass. Bonus points every time I hear it. I just gotta say,
it's Nathan's bass, but it was like, a Douglas. I don't even remember the model, but it's just a Douglas fretless bass, and that into a dark glass, and that's it.
Sounds good. I just say I love the playing on.
Funny thing about the bass too, like one thing.
Sorry, bro.
I didn't write any of the bass out. It's all good. I have to say this, like I didn't write any of the bass. I didn't even think about it until I went to go record it. So everything you hear on there, as far as like the bass tracks goes, like on the spot basically.
Dude.
And then like because it's
based.
yeah,
Dude,
and because it's a fretless bass, like there's no lines to show you like where the frets are. So a lot of it, I had to go back and like, oh, that note's off. I gotta punch that in real quick. So a lot of what you hear was just kind of done on the spot, especially the conscious descent bass solo. I improv that whole thing. That was just kind of like a on the whim moment kind of thing too. I was like, oh, you know what? I got some space here to do something. So yeah, just a funny side note about the bass.
Dude, yeah, I love it. Yeah, Conscious Ascent. That's like a great track. I love the acoustic intro, the fretless bass. Dude, it's just such great stuff, man. Such great stuff. All right, so let's see. Okay, so next one here. So I see some songs referenced in the lyrics here, right? For one of the first ones I saw was Maze of Torment, Morbid Angel.
Yeah.
Within the Mind, that was like a death lyric. And then I also saw This Godless Endeavor, which is like a Nevermore lyric. I think I'm probably missing some, but yeah, what was the main inspiration behind a lot of these lyrics here? Like, I love throwing back to some bands, like song titles. I think that's just so cool, bro. That's such a cool way to do that.
It's funny because I didn't. I'm aware of Nevermore, but I'm not a big Nevermore fan. I should probably listen to him more. But I didn't even know that was a Nevermore like title, to be honest with you. But yeah, like the Maze of Torment, Within the Mind. Yeah, like that is just me kind of just winking at the listener and just seeing if you're really listening to me, kind of thing. Like, because especially with metal, the people always say like the lyrics don't matter. You're not really even saying anything anyway. And with Hemotoxin, that's definitely not the case. Like I sing out every single word. Like all the lyrics are like actually sung out, like pronounced. Yeah, like, yeah, I just like to test people and just see if they're listening and like see if you recognize little references, especially because like I'm a big hip hop head too. Like I love rappers like I'm from the Bay Area, so I love Too Short. And like you listen to Too Short, he always references stuff from like his old demos and like his early albums. That like if you heard his old shit, you would know the bar that he's referencing on this next thing. So that's kind of where I get that idea from too. Is like you know what Maze of Torment is. You love Morbid Angel. You know what Within the Mind is because you love death. So I just love doing that kind of thing. I've always done it or I've tried to do it like on all the Hemotoxin albums. Like years ago, like on Biological Enslavement, I wanted to pay tribute to the band Laceration. That's also from Northern California. Because at that point in 2016, they were kind of defunct. Like they weren't really a band anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of sad about that. So I literally lifted a whole line from one of their songs and put it in mine because I thought, no one's ever going to hear this song again, so I need to like keep it alive. So if you listen, it's called Laceration Consuming Reality EP, I think. There's a song on there called Arise Within, and there's a line that Luke says, no chance for change, society blamed. So I took the whole thing and put it in my own song. So I was like, I got to pay tribute to, because like Laceration, I'm sure if you listen to Death Thrash or Thrash, you got to be aware of them. But if you're not, you got to check out Laceration.
All right,
that was a band for me like early on. That was like a huge influence because YouTube and Spotify, all this stuff where you can get kind of like an algorithm to like you suggest stuff to you wasn't totally a thing yet. You still had to kind of like hear about stuff from word of mouth.
Yeah.
And so when I saw Laceration was the first time I heard Demolition Hammer because I used to do a cover of Human Dissection. So yeah, I have to pay like I feel like at that point too when they weren't really active, I had to pay tribute to them because I love Laceration still to this day. They just released another album, $20 Spin. That's just amazing. Like they're an amazing band. So definitely got to give props to Laceration.
Sick.
But yeah, the references and stuff. Yeah, I love doing that.
Yeah, I just thought that was so cool, and I thought that was a really sick idea. All right, okay, so now this is my next question here. I love how this album is very chaotic, fast and frenzied, yet it still retains a lot of structure into the songwriting. Like when you have a riff and a song idea, how do you go about arranging this stuff? Like obviously you can hear a lot of like death type song structure, especially in like Malediction and stuff like that. But yeah, what are your thoughts on like song structures and like arranging your riffs and yeah?
Yeah, so for Hemotoxin, it's kind of I want the heart of it to be thrash. I want the dynamics and the song structures themselves to be reflective of like the bands I listed earlier: Slayer, Dark Angel, Hyrax, Demolition Hammer, Nuclear Assault. Just especially the new song from Nuclear Assault. If you listen to how that song is structured, like the way it just takes you from the intro and then just straight into like the thrashing of the like main part of the song. There's something about that I think is, especially when we started back in 2010, was kind of missing from the scene because thrash had kind of faded. We, prior to that, like 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, there was like a sort of a revival of thrash. That's when like Havoc came into prominence, Warbringer, Hatchet, these, Fog of War, those kinds of bands. And by the time 2010 rolled around, it kind of faded off. Warbringer, had reached a certain level where they could go out and tour and we're pretty active and stuff, but it was starting to fade a little bit. So I really wanted to keep that spirit alive, just pow, 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 pow type of thrash, and just making sure like the whole song reflects that. Even if there's like a break or like a halftime part, like just don't let it last too long because we got to get back to the circle pit. Kind of, that's the idea.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to embrace the mosh parts as much as I can, but like old school mosh parts, like Death, Pull the Plug, like the that riff. Like you watch old school tapes of that, especially there's one from like Texas, like from 1988. The whole pit just falls over during that part. Like that's what I want people to do when they hear Hemotoxin. So it's like if I want that kind of response, I have to give I have to give that dynamic. And so I just love doing that to people where like, we'll play something halftime, but then we're gonna get up to that peak. We're gonna get up to the top of the roller coaster, and then I'm gonna give you this riff, and we're just gonna drop right back down into the fucking depths of hell together. And that's kind of like the whole idea of like at least like the meat and the structure of like a Hemotoxin song. But then I'll get creative with the riffing a little more and make things melodic, and then that's where it kind of gets a little more death metal and then blast beats too. And so yeah, I just try to keep it thrash at its heart and then try to tack on a couple more little elements that'll kind of take it away from that, but not for too long. I'm going to take you back into the circle pit, sooner than later. So yeah, that's sort of the idea for Hemotoxin for anything we do. Yeah.
Oh, nice, sick. Okay, then now let's talk about your vocals, bro. Like, you're kind of like straddling the line from like the thrash vocals to the death metal style. Like, it kind of really reminds you a lot of like Sodom, like Tom Angel Ripper from Sodom, like the early stuff. Like that kind of what really reminds me of it. Like who or what are you trying to emulate, or are you just trying? You know what I'm trying to say, like. What inspires your vocal style? I suppose I could say.
It was funny. So when I first started trying to do vocals, I hadn't even really listened to Death yet. I was big on Slayer, Metallica, that type of stuff. I Morbid Angel, and especially like the Chris Barnes on Tomb of the Mutilated. Like, I was really trying to like do something like that, and also. Like, I don't know why I had this in my head at like 14, but like I wanted to sort of sound like Venom from the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, like Venom and Carnage, the way the voice actors sounded there. There's a little bit of that too that I wanted to bring out, that whole type of thing, and then eventually translated to like more obituary sounding vocals. But yeah, those when I started, that was what I was going for. But yeah, I love to like. Especially like now that I'm more refined with my vocals, I'm definitely trying to do more of the Angel Ripper, or like there's another band called Rotting Corpse from Texas that's super sick. They're hella obscure, but their vocalist too kind of does like those thrashy like type of things, and then he'll like get like really crazy with the screams and stuff. So I love to sort of toe the line for sure, but I try to just keep my voice as raspy as I can. But I mean, like, yeah, my vocals are literally just me like screaming. Like this is just my talking voice, but with like the distortion turned on essentially. So it's just how it comes out. Like I'm not necessarily like trying to go for a certain tone or anything. Like I'll try to go low or high, but like as far as like the middle range goes, that's just my normal voice just belting out, like I can't fake the mids that easy. Like the highs and lows are easy for me because it's just me adjusting my vocal range. But like as far as like the actual like when I'm like singing real words and stuff, that's just straight out of my vocal cords basically into the mic.
Oh, nice. So you don't like have a like a technique that you're kind of doing. You're just in the booth screaming, basically.
Well, there is like a technique to it. I actually, I think people would find it kind of funny that I took choir in high school. In 10th grade, I did a semester with the high school choir. And so I learned a lot of my breathing techniques and pushing from the
Yeah.
diaphragm
Oh,
through
yeah.
that. Yeah, so I got my technique from choir, and then
Oh, crazy.
eventually I was able to, yeah, yeah, I was able to translate it into death metal vocals because they teach you like. So I was I like my voice is pretty low, or it's not super low, but it's low enough that I got classified as a baritone.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd have to do a lot of that stuff. But the baritone, you have to like really like amplify your voice to provide that low end for the sopranos and the higher singers
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. And so I learned a lot of that, and like the all of the like vocal warm ups. You breathe in for 10 seconds, blow it out for 15 seconds, whatever. All that stuff. I did all that in high school, so I really got my technique from there. And then I just wanted to just scream. And then once I heard Chuck, like I was like, damn, especially. I'm trying to think of what song. It was definitely Leprosy because I remember Leprosy was like the first album I heard from Death, and just oh god, what song is it? Where it's like, um, what the line is like, now there's nothing you can do. Ooh,
Is that Left to
that
Die?
shit,
Maybe.
man. I want to say it's Left to Die, but I don't think it is. I think it's one of the songs after that. But
Someone in the
yeah,
chat might
just
know. Someone in the
just
chat might
those.
know.
Yeah, I hope someone will correct me on that. But yeah, just those fucking long screams that he would do, where he would go from like low all the way up to high,
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
like on
yeah.
Scream Bloody Gore. I was just like, dude, like that's it. That's what I have to be able to do. Like to be able to go from like brutally low, like almost Chris Barnes low, up to like, you know, super high vocals. Like that. When I heard that, I was like, okay, like I need to be able to do that. And like, I guess thankfully, like I guess Chuck and I had similar vocal cords or something because I ended up sounding similar to him when I started doing vocals. And so I was always inspired by Chuck. I always loved the stuff that he did, especially on the early albums, like on Symbolic and stuff. He wasn't necessarily doing anything super crazy on the vocals.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was more about the music at that point. But like, yeah, I was just always influenced by his long screams. But like, I've never really tried to sound like anybody, and like that's kind of where, like, I always get like shit. Like, I love the comparison, but then I don't because then it's like, oh shit, like I'm not specifically trying to sound like Chuck, but what I give out is like, sounds similar to him. So it's a blessing and a curse in a way because like I said, I can't fake the mid vocals. Like it's really hard to do that.
Hmm.
I can go from low to high, and like what you're hearing is basically me within my range. That's why, like in Rip to Shred, I do more of the higher vocals for that project, and then Andrew does the low stuff because that's just what my voice caters to is more mid high type of stuff. So
Yeah, it makes
yeah,
sense.
blessing and a
All right.
curse, but yeah.
Now, what guitar did you play on that album? Like what? Because I know it's like
So
when time becomes lost is like yeah, like you said, like E, but on a 7 string. So you have a 7 string, but I don't think everything's played on a 7 string, is it?
so only song that uses the 7 string is When Time Becomes Lost,
Yeah.
Malediction, and Abstract Commands. Those are the only songs that like have strictly 7 string parts. But for the majority of it, including the solos, I use the this guy, the EVH Stealth Bomber. Um, this is what I
Okay.
use for pretty much all the rhythm tracks on every song except the three that I mentioned. Um, yeah, because basically, like on the playthrough for When Time Becomes Lost, I did a mixture of this plus the Strandberg, and you can kind of hear they're not intonated together too good. So on When Time Becomes Lost, like the title track, I just strictly use the 7 string to keep it consistent, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
on the other songs, Malediction, Abstract, I did that as well. And then for everything else, you hear Morbid, Call, Conscious, Reborn was done on this guitar, solos and all. So it's just it's my favorite guitar I've ever owned. Yeah, it's just stock. I haven't done anything to it. I bought it at Guitar Center because I was teaching there for a little bit. Like I was working there, and they let you basically kind of pick up any guitar off the wall to teach with for the day if you don't bring your own. And so I saw it and I was like, yeah, let
Oh,
me
that's very
pick
nice.
this up. And I never put it down. Like I had students that were like noticing I was like finding reasons to like play this thing while we were in the middle of the lesson because I literally fell in love with this thing. So yeah, I definitely wanted to make sure I used it and featured it prominently on When Time Becomes Lost. So yeah, this is it.
Dude, sick.
Yeah,
And that was
nothing crazy, just all stock. Like I think it's like their base model too, and just plays amazingly. It's got like an oil finish on the neck. I don't know if it like comes through too well, but you can kind of see it's like shiny back there. So it's just always slick on the neck.
Oh, nice.
So it's an amazing instrument. So yeah, those are the guitars that I used for the recording.
Oh, nice, cool. I've never even played an EVH. I don't know. Just the guitar stores here in Canada just never carry them. I don't know what's up with that, but they always look sick to me.
If you ever get your hands on one, they're amazing. They kind of got more of like the radius is like maybe a little bit smaller than like an Ibanez would be, but I don't know, just something about it. Just Eddie Van Halen knew what he was doing when he built those things, and it shows. Even on a production model like that, it just plays incredibly well. So yeah, I love that thing, man. I try to actually like for a time it was like I wouldn't play Malediction or Abstract, live with Hemo because I wanted to use the EVH so much.
That's hilarious.
So like when we do play When Time Becomes Lost in full on stage, I got to use the Strandberg and stuff. It's I'm not complaining, but I fucking love the EVH. So when I have an excuse to use it on stage, I definitely will. But like every day I play this thing, like my practice regimen is like always like classic rock backing tracks and then like improv, and it's all pretty much on the EVH. Yeah, I'm gonna probably play that thing till I'm dead. Nice. Most likely. Like that's. Yeah, and you might have to bury me with that thing. I don't know.
Nice, and that was tuned to what? E flat, the whole.
E flat.
Yeah. It's a nice tuning.
And then yeah. It's always minus the Alchemist EP. That's always been the tuning we played in.
Nice. Okay, so I just want to talk about the song "Reborn in Tragedy" here. I just thought the lyrics in this song were really, really good. I'm just gonna read them out, and maybe you can comment on them here, right? So it all begins again, this sinking feeling, so familiar, another episode of grief. So remorseless, a test to my adversity. Cherished moments torn from the mind, replaced by what is yet to be, the exception of what fate has in store for me. Fight through loss, reborn in tragedy, sacrifice another piece of me. Now, I just found those lyrics were very, very profound. Like, I lost my mom, like, about 2 years ago, and when I heard those lyrics in Reborn in Tragedy, I was like, oh, damn, what a great mindset to have about it, like Reborn in Tragedy. What does that song mean to you? And if you don't want to get into what inspired it, it's okay. Like, you don't need to. But
no,
I just thought that was a really, really great
song,
bro. Yeah, love the lyrics in that.
Yeah, no, Reborn in Tragedy is strictly a song about trauma, and it's about how you deal with it. I lost my mother, too, when I was, like, 14, and, I've lost family members, lost my sister 2 years ago, so loss and trauma is something I'm very, very familiar with. And with that song, I just kind of wanted to I finally felt like I was in a place, I guess, like lyrically, where I could put that on paper and make it make sense to like a metalhead. Because like, nobody wants to hear you like bitch and complain on a song, like, especially metal's about power, about adversity, or overcoming adversity and stuff. And so and when before I wrote anything for When Time Becomes Lost, I had gone out of a pretty shitty relationship where I pretty much lost my dog, my apartment, everything. And so like
not the dog, bro.
That's sort of where that dude, that's, man, I miss that dog. Yeah, but that's sort of where honestly, like losing that dog is where that it all begins again. That sinking feeling, because like literally, I remember the day, like the last day I saw her, and like I thought that to myself, like it all begins again. It's that sinking feeling when you've lost something, or at that point I lost multiple things, and I just felt like I was just. That's what I sort of wanted to get across too with the music, is like sort of feel like you're falling sort of like into this endless pit of basically your emotion, and just feeling like, where the fuck am I going to land on this? And just accepting that no matter what happens or where you land, you are going to land somewhere. And it's, obviously it's on you, but you got to pick up the pieces and move on. And so that's what Reborn in Tragedy really talks about in sort of a long-winded way. Just basically telling, just explaining like how it made me feel and how I got through it, kind of thing.
Yeah, man.
And just trying to, yeah, deliver that in lyrics and wrap it up in a nice, package so that when you listen to it, you kind of get it. So I'm glad that you brought that up because it sounds like you do.
Yeah, man, dude. Like I said, and your vocals are not layered too, right? It's just the single vocal. I don't think you're double tracked
Yep.
pretty much anything.
Some stuff I did, like certain words I'll like layer it a couple
Yeah,
times,
yeah.
but yeah, everything's mostly one track.
Which yeah,
'Cause, yeah,
that really helps like the clarity of the vocals, and you got great enunciation too. So like the first time I listened to it, I was able to understand like most of the lyrics going through. But yeah, I was just like, damn, like what a profoundly good song and just like a great message, man. I just love that. We're born in
yeah,
tragedy, dude. It's just great. Absolutely. Great
yeah.
stuff, man.
Thank you.
Great stuff, bro. All right, okay. So we got a couple more questions here, and then I got to get going because I got my family-in-laws coming over for dinner tonight here. Okay, so
Yes, gotcha.
what is your favorite song on the album and why?
Oh my god, it's like trying to pick your favorite child. I honestly like. I'd have to, and like it's reflective because it's like the first two playthroughs that I did for the channel, but it's definitely between the title track and Malediction. Yeah, like especially Malediction, like that song was so just like it free flowed so well when I wrote it because basically like at that time like it was like 2021, right? And so like shutdown was in full effect. We weren't doing anything, so one night I had dropped some acid and I was playing Doom Eternal on my PC here on this very computer right here that I'm talking to you into, and I beat the campaign and like it was, dude, oh my god, Doom Eternal on acid is one of the most amazing things I've ever experienced in my life. I felt like I was in like a very like palpable version of hell.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like it's just gore everywhere. It was I loved it. But yeah, after that, the only thing I could think beyond that was like, man, that fucking soundtrack did not have enough blast beats in it. Like for how gory that game is and how disgusting and like hellish it is, like it's just like like that kind of like Power Man 5000 sounding shit. I don't want to call it shit. Like I don't want to hate on it. Like I love the soundtrack for Doom Eternal, but I was just like, what would have been way better is if they would have done like a death metal soundtrack. And so after I finished it, I was just like, man, like what would that sound like? So I just opened up Reaper and like I literally wrote that. I think I finished the game at like 1 a.m, and then I finished Malediction at like 3:45.
Oh damn!
Something like that.
Damn.
Yeah, just trip. Like I wasn't even. I don't like to say tripping because I was like composed. Like I've literally have made like guitar videos on acid that are on my Instagram. That like, I could like I like to challenge myself in that type of way. And so like, yeah, when I wrote it, I wasn't like, oh, my guitar is turning into a snake. Like it was just like I was kind of just locked the fuck in and just like, I just had this idea in my head and I really wanted to get it out. I didn't even intend for it to really be Hemotoxin at first. It was more so just like I wanted to write a death metal song like that was basically Doom themed. So that's what came out. And then like the next morning I didn't even go to sleep that night. I just went straight out on a bike ride like at like 7 a.m. and I was just listening to it like going downhill and I was like, fuck yeah, like I wrote a good song. Holy shit. Like
dude, it's
on acid. Like I couldn't really believe it. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, this song's good. Like tucked that away for a while. And then once I was going through tracks to kind of like later on, because like at that point I didn't have the album totally in mind yet. But then like a year later was when we started to put together tracks. And then I was like, oh yeah, Malediction. Like let's use that. So yeah, that song, just like the way it flows with the riffs and the solo too. Like it's one of my it's my favorite Hemotoxin solo I've ever written. Just how like the way it flows, like the whole thing, like it's just me just kind of like in a certain headspace, like right place, right time, right temperature in the room, the planets were aligned, the whole bit. So yeah, that and When Time Becomes Lost, just because like I love that. You called it out too, like on your video, the because I suck at music theory, but that E to C to D, that dude, the Iron Maiden chords is what I call it. Like I just love that, and I always wanted to do that. Yeah. I've always wanted to do that in a song. Like I've always wanted to have like my own song that just takes advantage of that sound, and that's why I'm able to do like all the harmonics and stuff. So yeah, like that for that reason, like When Time Becomes Lost is also like my favorite to play, just because, or my favorite song, just because of like I finally did it. I did a E to C to D. I did the Iron Maiden stuff without. Oh shit! Hold on, I'm unplugged.
Oh, no
Yeah, I
worries.
did the Iron Maiden stuff without totally sounding like them, but it was funny because like I tried to explain that to my girlfriend because she's a huge Iron Maiden fan. She loves all that
Oh,
stuff. So
nice,
it's
nice.
like you don't. Yeah, I'm like you don't hear it. Like I played When Time Becomes Lost, and then I played Hallowed Be Thy Name like in between like certain parts. Like, do you get it now? Type of thing. So yeah, yeah. So though I can't really pick one. It's between those two.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, that makes total sense to me. It's hilarious. Like you just like you said, like stars kind of aligned. I just made like a video about the Iron Maiden chord progression, like I think like a week before, and then I
I
heard
saw
When
that.
Time Becomes Lost, and I'm like, oh my god, like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
that, but with those cool like I almost call it like the death chord, but it's like the add nine or the sus2 when you put like
Yeah, the
two
Ad
power
Nine.
chords basically add nine. Yeah, and you
Yeah, that's
combine those
always been
chords.
my
So
yeah.
cool, man. That's sick. I love it.
I love the add nine chord, whether it's minor or major. Like that's one of my favorite chords ever, just because of yeah, you don't really get because that nine is like that note you can't really hit anyway in the chord, so it's just up in that higher octave, just something about it, and like I've always used it like ever since the first album, and like I just love the way it rings out with like the open strings, like if you get it just
Yes,
right.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Especially when
man,
you do
the
that
yeah, it's
on like the two and the four, and then you get the five, right? So you got like the minor nine and the major, or the add nine and the minor third right above it,
yeah,
like rubbing right next to each other. Yeah, it's made that it's like so satisfying. That's why I
exactly.
love that riff so much. I had to put it like, damn, it's so
Yeah,
good.
totally. So, yeah, I've always made that a part of our sound, like having the thrash core at it, but then doing a bunch of prog chords and like stuff like within that to sort of be like, there's a little more going on in this metal stew I've cooked up for you.
Yeah, bro. Oh, dude, it was sick. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah, malediction, and I love the story behind that. Yeah, playing Doom on
Yeah,
acid. It makes sense, right? Chaos, malediction. Now that you say that, it's like, okay, I
yeah,
can totally see that. Replace the Argent metal right with that. It would totally
yeah.
fit,
And
bro.
I just
Totally
try
fit.
to like I try to make it about Doom, so that's why there's references to Hell Priest and all that in there. So yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay, what are you most proud of in this album? I know your favorite song is Malediction or When Time Comes Lost. What are you most proud of? Doesn't necessarily have to be like a song. Could be like a moment or like a theme or something like. Yeah. What are you most proud of?
Mm. Probably the bass solo in Conscious Descent, just because that was the most, yeah,
I
it was the
love it,
most
bro. Hell yeah.
spontaneous thing I did on the whole album, and I was like I just like I didn't like I said when I did the bass, I didn't write anything for it. I didn't even think about what I was gonna do on bass until I had the bass in my hands. So I was like, oh yeah, huh, I got to do this. But yeah, probably that's my proudest moment, just because like I did that on a whim, and I was just like, oh, that works, huh? Oh, I mean, I had the confidence to be like, yeah, this is gonna work, but I didn't totally know like who's someone gonna call me out for like having shitty technique or whatever. But yeah, like that probably, or and just like in general the whole album and getting it released, just because like at one point it was never like even gonna happen.
Yeah,
Like
man. Yeah,
I
I
used
believe it.
to like I'm so obsessive with this. I would like before the album was out, I would like Google search Hemotoxin When Time Becomes Lost and like see it show zero results and just like think about it that way. Like I'm trying to make something from nothing and like once again trying to do that and like can I really like am I do I still have it kind of thing. And so just being able to even like release an album and like have it do as well as it did, like that much, that I'm really proud of, just because like Hemotoxin's never released an album this successful, and like we're not blowing up the world or anything, but just even seeing like the stats on like Bandcamp and seeing like between Forever and the End, Biological Enslavement, Restructure, and then When Time Becomes Lost, and it's just
Nice,
like out the
nice.
roof, man. It's just yeah, that much that I'm proud of, because I didn't think I could do it on my own. I always had to have my drummer kind of like help me out with stuff or like give me suggestions for songwriting. And so like the fact that I took the chance to do it on my own, invested in it, and like it actually like worked out better than anything we've ever done is probably what I'm most proud of. Is the fact that I could do it. Um, yeah, that's probably what I'm most proud of
Dude,
besides a bass
I love
solo.
that because it's like anybody who's tried to record anything, it's like a ton of work, and that's like even if you're just playing one part, never mind singing, solos, rhythms, fretless bass, like crazy, man. I can't even comprehend the amount of work it must have been. Like you said, over like two
Yeah,
years too. Crazy.
Yeah, it's always been like that for the most part. I would like lay out the ideas and then bring it to the band. And so I was always doing 90% of the work anyways, and then the booking and social
Yeah,
media and all that other, on top of all that. So yeah, I've always had practice with it, but this time I was able to go full on and like not have to worry about, my old drummer, not liking a part or whatever. I could just do whatever the hell I want.
nice. Okay, last question here, bro. The album art,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. I love it. I love the colors. Like, did you pick that specifically? Did you get it made? Is it just like some artwork that you found? Like, what do you think the artwork speaks of the album? To me, it's like a very
Yeah,
colorful
this
album art.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so this was a part of Mark Cooper's his portfolio online. Mark Cooper, he's done art for Rings of Saturn. I think that's like one of the biggest artists he's done album art for. But he's got his website, and he's got like tons of portfolios of just like a bunch of pieces. And like I was just scrolling through it. It was funny actually. I was at a hip hop concert. I was seeing it was Warren G, Too Short, Wiz Khalifa, and Snoop Dogg. Right?
Oh, nice. Sick.
Wiz, I don't. I love old school hip hop. I'm not big on Wiz Khalifa like at all. So during Wiz Khalifa's set, I was literally scrolling through my phone, looking at Mark's like portfolios, and I saw the When Time Becomes Lost, what I would pick for the When Time Becomes Lost art, and I was like, oh, bam, that's it. I think like Black and Yellow was playing from Wiz Khalifa in the background. Like all these people were like jumping around me, and I'm just like waiting for Snoop Dogg to come on. I'm like, that's my album art. So yeah, that's how I picked it. I was just scrolling through. We've used him for Restructure the Molded Mind and Biological Enslavement too. So we've had a long history with him. But yeah, he just has a bunch of art just all ready to go. And so I'll just take a look at his stuff, and like he has multiple pieces where I'm like, dude, like that's what I want, or like that, type of style. So yeah, that's how it came about. Just scrolling through his portfolio while Wiz Khalifa is performing his heart out on stage, and I'm just sitting down being a total prick about it because yeah, I don't know. I love old school hip hop. I'm more into like Too Short, E40, all that stuff, Ice Cube, NWA. So
Dude, I love it.
So that's how I got the art.
Dude, hilarious stories all over the place, man. I love like how like you can pinpoint
My
the
life's
exact
a
moment,
little
bro.
ridiculous, yeah.
Nice. Okay, well then, what are the plans for Hemotoxin then? Anything we want to shout out before we finish up here?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to support hemotoxin70.bandcamp.com, that's our Bandcamp. This year, our schedule is wide open. I'm going to be a little bit busy with Rip to Shreds. Next Thursday, Rip to Shreds is playing the Foundry in Philadelphia for the pre-show for the Decibel Metal and Beer Fest that's happening out there. We're going to be playing with Mammoth Grinder and Incantation, and I think they're called Walking Wounded from the area. And so I'll be busy with that next weekend, and then in May I'll be hitting the road with Rip to Shreds for about 10 days up and down the West Coast. So
oh, nice.
Yeah, we're really looking for stuff to do like in the summer. Just kind of keeping our ears open, ears to the ground, see what's happening. But yeah, in between that, I'm just here jamming my heart away, going to work, and just waiting for the next gig. So yeah, we got little things I'm trying to work on. Nothing's like too solid right now. We're just kind of chilling. I think we're actually going to meet up tomorrow to practice for the first time since like February. So
Oh,
we get to
nice,
see
bro.
those guys, and yeah. So yeah, we're just just sharpening our blades until the next one. So yeah, if you want to support Hemotoxin, please visit the Bandcamp. You can buy all our merch is on there. I got wall flags I just got. CDs, tapes, vinyl, everything. So yeah, if you want to go support, go there. And if you want to come see me, I'll be playing with Rip to Shreds next week in Philadelphia. And if you're not in Philly and you're in the West Coast, I'll be touring all up and down from Southern California all the way up to. Actually, we're going to Vancouver too. Actually,
Oh
so
shit, you're coming to Canada. No
as
way.
well. Yeah. So I'll be heading to. Or you're from Edmonton?
Yes, I mean it's like the province over. Vancouver's like a 12-hour drive away, unfortunately.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah,
It's a big
Canada's
country.
gigantic too. So yeah, but yeah, so if you want to catch me, I'll be doing that, and then see what happens this summer. Other than that, if you want to support, hit up the Bandcamp, and all the Bandcamp orders go through me. I want everyone to know that first and foremost is like every time you order from Bandcamp, I'm the one packing it. I throw in all the extra little goodies, like I got picks and stickers and stuff for anybody that wants to. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. And it says Rip to Shreds on the back too, so I don't have to worry about bringing the wrong pics to the wrong gig or whatever. But yeah, so anybody that orders, I'm filling it. You know, it's going through my hands, and if you want it signed or personalized in any way, I can do that too. So yeah,
dude,
just looking forward to the next one.
dude, sick. Yeah, you know, you might get an order from Canada here for a wall flag. I got some space in my wall that needs to be covered here, so maybe you'll see that.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, thanks for coming on the stream, Mike. I really appreciate it, and
Absolutely,
you know, I appreciate
dude. Thank
making
you for
fantastic music.
yeah, thank you for including us in your video, man. That really meant a lot. You know, to get that kind of exposure, and like I didn't even know about it until a friend sent it to me. Like 2 of my friends sent it to me.
Oh really?
Like,
Shit, no way.
Shit, man. Like, yeah. So I was like, this is amazing. Like I really appreciate you doing that because you know, like we're not, like I said, we're not like the super like, you know, active band out there blowing up the world. You know, we're pretty underground, and we can, you know, use the extra help. So I really appreciate that, man. Like, you know, to give us that extra little spotlight, and especially to be up there with bands like Cynic and Maiden and like I appreciate that so much because I worship all those bands, and so for us to be able to remind you or anyone else of those bands is an absolute honor. Anytime we get that, you know, that compliment to be told that, you know, we sound like them or that we are even like anywhere close to that caliber. Like, thank you.
Oh,
thank you very much.
You're most welcome, man. Yeah, it's just crazy that you had multiple people watch that video of me shittily play all those riffs.
Well, sooner than later, I'll be putting up lesson videos on the Hemotoxin page. So, yeah, if anybody ever wants to learn it, the tabs are up on Guitar Pro, or not Guitar Pro, Ultimate Guitar. So if you want to, you know, download those are there too. But yeah, I'll be doing that soon, so people can learn it if they want, or if you want a refresher, that'll be there eventually. So. Yeah, no, dude, I appreciate it. To see someone else play my riffs that just learned it by ear, that's amazing, man. It's incredible. Appreciate that.
Ah, that's awesome. Well, Mike, thanks for coming on again. Let's chat again soon, bro. If you got any
Sounds
like,
good.
demos or anything, bro, send it to me. You know, I'd love to hear
them. Hell yeah.
And if you ever
Sounds
come to
good,
Edmonton,
man.
bro, I'll definitely go, or anywhere even close. I'd make the drive. Vancouver's too far, but
yeah,
I'll make the drive somewhere close.
Yeah, 12 hours, right. Hell yeah, man. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Of course,
see you down the road.
Okay, have a good night. Take care, guys.
Peace.